Stories of fairies have existed for a long time. Folklore even says that early morning mists are fairies dancing on the fields. In Sweden, the name for this mist is even called älvdans, which translates to fairy dance. With their presence in folklore, it's not surprising that there have been tales of people saying that they encountered fairies. One such example is when Jacob Jacobsson would say that he had entered the Fae realm in 1759. The story of Jacob Jacobsson comes from the book Möten med det okända by Claes Svan, and the story goes like this. On the 16th of September 1759, 22-year-old Jacob Jacobsson had crossed Lake Kölsjön in Ramsberg to deliver a lunch pack for his father and for himself. They were going to be working in the woods for the next few days and obviously needed something to eat for those days. When Jacob had returned from crossing the lake after he had dropped off the lunch pack, he suddenly noticed a large, broad road that he hadn't seen before. And out of curiosity, he decided to follow the road for a bit, just to see where it led. After a few moments of walking down this road, Jacob would arrive at a manor house. Soon he found himself sitting on a bench in one of the rooms of the manor. As he was sitting on this bench, he noticed a small, chubby man with a red cap sitting at the end of the table of the room. He also saw a group of little people that kept running in and out of the room. All of them seemed like humans in every way except for the fact that they were very small. The only exception of this was a beautiful maiden who was taller than everyone else in the room, except for Jacob, of course. She asked Jacob if he would like something to drink or to eat, but he declined. The little people would then ask him if he liked to stay there. This question frightened him a lot, and he would say, "God, please help me return safely to my mother and father." This would prompt the man in the red cap to say that they should kick him out. Suddenly, Jacob found himself back on shore next to his boat, and the road that he had walked down wasn't there anymore. A little frightened and very unnerved by the whole thing, he immediately began heading home. Once he returned home, he would learn from his parents that he had been missing for 4 days and nights. They had searched everywhere for him, but there was no trace of him anywhere. Jacob would claim that he did not feel hungry or thirsty despite being missing for 4 days. Jacob would tell his story to Reverend Vigelius on St. Michael's Day, the 29th of September that same year. His parents would be there as witnesses, and the Reverend is the one who wrote down this story. The Reverend would conclude by describing Jacob as a pious but simple man. In the book, Svan lists his sources for this story as historian Linda Oja and Mikael Sjöberg from UFO Sverige, which is a national organization that investigates public reports of unidentified flying objects. I decided to search the National Archives, and Reverend Vigelius is very much a real person, as I did find manuscripts by him from around the same time that the story of Jacob Jacobsson allegedly took place. So the Reverend, at least, is a real person. I also decided to look up Jacob Jacobsson, and I did find information on a Jacob Jacobsson that was born in 1736, which would make him 23 years old in 1759. And the text on the left does describe the events as told by Reverend Vigelius. Though there's a few different details, such as Jacob was delivering food to his father and another man named Anders Nilsson, and the mansion was a red mansion. But beyond that, it's pretty much the same story. and the source is a book called Svenska sagor och sägnor. So if this information is accurate, then Jacob existed as well. Jacob's story is also retold in the book titled Wonders in the Sky by Jacques Vallée and Chris Aubeck. As the title suggests, this book is a collection of stories that might point at encounters with aliens or UFOs. The story of Jacob does match many stories involving alien abduction. The person going missing from some time, either days, months, or in some cases years, and then when they return, if they return, they are seemingly confused over the passage of time because to them no time has passed. It's practically an alien abduction trope at this point, but it wasn't that in the 18th century. With that in mind, it's not surprising that Jacob Jacobsson's story is looked at as an early example of a possible alien abduction. But I also want to look at it from another angle, which is the fairy angle. As I mentioned in the beginning, there have been encounters with fairies for centuries. Fairies have been part of folklore for ages. They are usually portrayed as female, though older folktales does describe them as being more gender-neutral beings. As I mentioned in the beginning, in folklore you could see them dancing across fields and meadows during the early morning or late evening hours, though they are more often heard than seen. It was believed for a long time that the sounds of a bird singing could have been that of a fairy. They aren't the friendliest of creatures, as they are believed to be very vengeful and capable of causing illnesses. Some stories will talk about a fairy king or queen. For instance, in one story called Herr Olof och Älvorna, or Mr. Olaf and the Fairies, the protagonist in the story is headed to his wedding when he stumbles upon fairies dancing in a field. One of these fairies, who just happens to be the daughter of the fairy king, asks him to dance with her. The protagonist knows that time flows differently within the fairy dance, and because of this, he refuses to dance with her, which angers her. Before he leaves, she threatens him with illness, and before his wedding, he passes away from a sudden illness, which was caused by the fairy. Jacob Jacobsson is not the only one who described encountering fairies. In 1656, a woman named Karin Svensdotter would be put on trial. During this trial, she confessed that she had given birth to 7 children, all fathered by the fairy king. She claimed that she had traveled with him into the mountain where he resided with other fairies. She described him as a handsome man wearing golden clothes, and he would often give her gifts like jewelry. Karin suffered from seizures which were witnessed by others, and she claimed that during 7 of these seizures, she had given birth to children that the fairy king then came for. Karin worked as a maid at a farm, and the farmer would testify that she did often go out into the woods searching for her children. The authorities were unsure on how to proceed with this trial. After some time, they would reach the conclusion that this whole thing was the work of Satan. They asked the community to pray for Karin, and her family would give her a silver cross. Allegedly, this caused her fits to stop, though it's unclear what exactly happened to Karin after this. People being put on trial for interacting with supernatural beings was pretty common in Sweden during the 17th and 18th centuries, though it was more common for men to be put on trial for this supposed crime. Jacob Jacobsson's experience is unique in that he wasn't put on trial, most likely because Reverend Vigelius didn't seem to take him seriously. given that he dismissed him as being simple-minded. As Swan writes in his book, the lost time and vanishing without a trace are common concepts when it comes to alien abductions. Jacob was supposedly missing for 4 days and nights before he arrived back at his house, where his parents told him that they had searched for him during those 4 days, but could not find him anywhere. A pretty famous example of this is the story of Travis Walton. According to Walton, this event took place on November 5th, 1975. A small summary is this. While riding in a truck with 6 of his coworkers, they would spot a saucer-shaped object hovering over the ground approximately 33 meters from their truck. The object was making a high-pitched buzzing sound, and Walton would leave the truck in order to get a better look at the object. As he approached this flying object, a beam of light would suddenly shoot out from the craft, which knocked him unconscious. Supposedly, this terrified the other men so much that they drove away, leaving Walton there. Walton would say that when he awoke in a hospital-like room being observed by 3 short, bald creatures. He would fight these beings until a human wearing a helmet led Walton to another room. In that other room, he would black out as 3 other humanoid beings put a clear plastic mask over his face. According to Walton, he remembers nothing from that point until the moment he found himself walking along a highway. This was supposedly 5 days after he and his coworkers had first encountered the object in the sky. What's interesting here is how many details in Walton's story matches the account of Jacob Jacobsson's story from 200 years before. Details such as the lost time, disappearing without a trace, and the fact that Walton encountered several smaller beings before he saw the humanoid beings, similar to how Jacob would see several smaller beings before he noticed the slightly bigger man in a red cap and of course the tall woman. Before the tales of aliens abducting people became more prominent in both fiction and real-life accounts, other beings were used as the abductors in folklore, mythologies, and literature. These beings could be everything from fairies, demons, mythological creatures, and even gods. It seems like the stories of encounters with fairies have become stories of possible encounters with aliens when viewed through more modern eyes. The story of Jacob Jacobsson isn't that well known, and because of that, there aren't many theories about what his experience could have been. Was it fairies, aliens, or did he possibly hallucinate? What do you guys think?